Hello all. Let's see here. I think I can actually hide this. Display capture. Good morning. Let me know if you can hear me. Chad, question for you. I see you in chat. This is pattern 1. And this is pattern 2. I think you're probably going to like pattern 1 better. But you let me know. This is pattern 1. This is pattern 2. This is pattern 1. And we're going to leave it on pattern 1. But if you want to tell me, Chad, to change it to 2, I will. But just don't spend the entire episode talking about sound, okay? Hello to you all. Hello, David. Good morning. Doug, Shitmoth, Hugh, Konnichiwa. Nice, Tricky Woo. Goodman Brown. Everybody seems to be in order. Day 19 of the Shungite abduction. Still in mourning. Not sure what happened there. But, yeah, good to see you guys. Thanks for being here. Wow, we've had some technical problems around here. I hope one of which is not the audio. Let's see if someone's given me a text to tell me, yeah, James, I can hear you. I saw Melanie tell me that she has music, which is great. And sounds good one. Okay, great. Thanks, Entropy. And Dorothy. Dorothy, I do not recognize your last name. Kind of hard to miss. Zabornak. But welcome to you. If you've been here before, sorry. Just the first time I've seen you. All right. We got a show for you today. First of all, apologies for all the technical issues we've had. Holy fuck nut. Oh my God, I'm not even going to bore you with it. Let's just get to work, right? Let's just get to work. Today is an auspicious day. Today is July 1st. And it is the very, very day that indentured servitude and slavery became legal. And we don't celebrate that. We only celebrate June 19th around here, Juneteenth around here. We don't celebrate the days where anyone actually becomes a slave. We only celebrate the days where the slavery is upgraded. And that's what's happening here in relation. Oh, thanks, Antonio. Great. Great. Oh, Jessica. Sorry, real quick. Jessica, if you have time, if not, don't worry about it. If you got guy in your hands full, seriously, no big deal. Find out if Schiff, Irwin Schiff, is the actual father of Peter Schiff, the famous one percenter Peter Schiff. If it is, I need to throw that slide back in because that is freaking profound. The Irwin Schiff, we'll get to that. But see if you can get that. But only if you have time. Seriously, we have so much to cover right now that it's probably okay. In fact, I should get on with that. Let's see what happens if I push this button. Egypt had slaves. Look at this guy in the left corner. I'm a slave, but I've got a wig, so it's not so bad. Hebrews had slaves. Yo, Moses, free us from slavery. We're so white. All of them are white. All of them. Greeks had slaves. They were white. Yeah, there were some black ones in there, but most of them are white. Chinese built the wall in slaves. Not a lot of black ones in there. Nope. Plato. It's not the actual Plato. That's a stone figure representing Plato. Plato. Justice consists in the superior ruling over and having more than the inferior. Aristotle. And indeed, the use made of slaves and of tame animals is not very different. For both with their bodies minister to the needs of life. I really want you guys to think about that. Both of their bodies minister to the needs of life. And what do all of us do today for a living? Cato the Elder considered slaves equipment and recommended their disposal before they got too old. Cato had no pupils, long story. Caesar brought 1 million slaves from Gaul. Literally brought back 1 million of them. I would like for you to try and imagine how you would chain and force 1 million people against their will to walk from Germany to Rome. I would like for you to please think about that right now. How would you, being Caesar, convince 1 million people to voluntarily follow you to Rome and enter into slavery? The answer is slavery is not what you think it is. nor has it ever been what you thought it was. That we have a romantic attachment to slavery. We have a fetish for it. And part of fetishizing something is to pretend that you hate it. 1 million slaves. Hey guys, you all are slaves. Come to Rome. No, but you have to because I said so. Okay, we'll go. It doesn't work that way. Think about it. Think about it. Slaves are tools with voices, says Pharaoh. Seneca lobbied for the Senate for slave uniforms until he realized that they would be outnumbered 3-1. Guys, Rome was built in slavery. Half the entire country was slaves. Hey, good to see you guys. Half the entire society was built on slaves. In fact, slave was a promotion in Rome. It was a promotion. Before you were a slave, before you were a citizen, you were an animal. Slave was a credential for animals back then, and that's where we were. That's where we were. Joshua Lindsay gets it. Constantine, Rome's first Christian emperor, quote, quote, made it lawful to whip white slaves to death in public. Pope Gregory, total sexual deviant, referred to the new white slaves brought into him from the north as angels, not angles. Right? Anglais, not the white ones. They were angels to him. He couldn't wait for the new crop of slaves to come in. Thought they were beautiful. That was Pope Gregory. Of course, through the 8th and 11th century, Rouen, France was a transfer point for Irish and Finnish slaves to the Muslim world. Italian slave markets offered Slavs brought across the Alps. Charlemagne himself required 2 Saxon slaves donated to the church for every 120 parishioners. Oh, your church is doing well. I'm going to need you to donate slaves to me because of that. Okay, we're the church, so we're going to enslave some more people so we can give you a few of them. That sounds like a great idea, says them. Let me see if I can get this bird feeder on real quick. Logitech 2, we just missed it. Come on, baby. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Hang on a second. Oh, it's not showing up. That's okay. Turn that off. We'll get that part of the technical difficulties I'm having. Charlemagne, as I said, every 120 parishioners equals 2 slaves for him. 2. Icelandic white slave children were routinely murdered in mass. A diplomatic envoy was sent to Scandinavia for a permanent slave trade between the Muslim world and the Europeans. The Mamluk were slaves trained as elite fighters, heralded for bringing the Islamic Empire's golden age. No shit. These guys were badass. They were slaves and they were given a horse. They were given spears. They were given a horse. They were given all the food they could eat. They were given home. They were given shelter. And all they had to do was kill whoever they told. And this was an elite society. That's a slave. On top of the horse, that's a slave. 1 million or more Christians were enslaved by Muslims in North Africa between 1530 and 1780. 1 million or more. Slavery is not a black problem. Slavery isn't even a problem as much as it's a dynamic that humans choose for profit. You'll see. Russians enslaved each other. 1571, an official slave chancellery codified white slavery as a Russian institution. Dr. Hilary McD. Beckles wrote in the Americas, Volume 42, that indentured servitude is white proto-slavery. Indentured contracts were alienable, transferred with no participation of the servant. No shit. You would walk into work and say, well, you don't work for me anymore. I sold you to him. Your contract's with him now. So all the agreements that you and I made are void because now they're with him. We didn't call that slavery, though. We called it servitude. Why? Because we have a fetish for the slavery part of it. We have a fetish for it. The disciplinary and revenue laws of early Virginia, 1631, did not discriminate Negroes in bondage from whites in bondage. There's no distinction between those two things. In fact, contracts were held regardless of color. If you hold a contract on a person, you held a contract to the person. Every state backed that up. Even Congress passed laws reinforcing it. The sugar colonies in Barbados, some that most people don't even know about, had as many as 25,000 slaves. Of the 25,000 slaves, 21,000 of them were white. Over 80% of the slaves in Barbados were white. James, white people can't be slaves. James, white people aren't allowed to be slaves. You're racist. Between the years 1649, a lovely trade was carried on between England and the plantations, as the colonies was called then. That's right, the colonies were called the plantations. America was founded on a plantation. America is a plantation. And it's run by the religion called freedom. Political prisoners were sold by auction to the colonists for various terms of years, sometimes for life, as slaves. Colonel A.B. Ellis, May 6, 1863. In 1659, the English Parliament debated the practice of selling British whites into slavery in the New World. In the debate, the whites were referred to not as indentured servants, but as slaves, whose enslavement threatened the liberties of all Englishmen. Thomas Burton, Parliamentary Diary, Volume 4, 253. I want you to pay attention to what was actually happening in England. I want you to imagine what it was like on the streets of London. I want you to imagine what it's like to live in some of the worst slum conditions ever. Literally ever. And all of it was white people. All of it. Colonization to Great Britain was eugenics program. It was eugenics program. You were looking at the elite of England faced with a massive population problem, a population problem that was so bad in the cities that the fires were actually good things. That the fires that broke out in these cities were actually clearing away some of the debris. We called them people. The idea of a new world, of a new plantation, was the perfect eugenics program. It allowed a country to set up a magic promised land, an exodus, much like Moses, in a new world where you would be free, you would have opportunity, where there are Indians waiting to be your friends and help you grow corn. Shit you not. That's how it was sold. If you want to know why England started the colony, you need to look at why Australia was started. For the very same reason. You had a population problem, a problem Rome knew about as early as the Jews. Yes, that one of the first things that Rome encountered was the sheer number of uncontrollables, of people that would not indenture themselves into the Roman system. Oops. In labor short 17th, 18th century America, the work of slaves and that of white servants was virtually interchangeable in most areas. David Roddiger, Race in the Making of the American Working Class. There were protests against kidnapping by white slave traders, documented in 1701. One of the worst jokes I've ever told, which no one ever gets it because no one reads, is that whenever someone says, well, I'm impressed, I would say, well, so was Billy Budd, but a lot of good that did him. And back then, the fetish for slavery was so strong that we would call it impressed. He wasn't enslaved. He was impressed. These are very different things. What makes them different? You can't say payment. Don't fucking say that. Because slaves got paid. You can't say that. Those payments that they make are how the master feels less bad about the relationship. That you're seeing empathy at work running even through slavery. That this was a symbiotic relationship that both benefited the master and slave as much as it hurt both the master and slave. Most of us, pretending to want sovereignty, actually want slavery. We use phrases like legalize freedom, that we are waiting for someone to come along and legalize freedom. That we have this notion that there's a savior out there who wants nothing more than to spend calories on making sure that your sovereignty is protected, free from any calories that you might have to spend to preserve it, and requires no lifting, no hard work on your part at all. That's what freedom means, to be dominated by the belief in free. And what is free? It's cheap, it's easy, it's instant, it's right away. No one has to fight for their freedom. No one has to die for their... Freedom isn't free, James. It's not free. You're going to have to pay your taxes. So we say, no, it's not that. But truly, this entire country is born on the religious idea that we can magically go to a place, build a fort, and inside that fort, only good things will happen. And outside that fort, only bad things will happen. And this is predator civilizing you. And you look at the politicians we have today, and you know why we got that way, how it got so bad so quickly. Chad, you didn't tell me if this is better as 1 or 2. If you did, I missed it. Let me see here. There were protests against kidnapping by whites. I already said that. Generally speaking, they groan beneath a worse than Egyptian bondage, says William Edis, Englishman 1700s. Famous novel Moll Flanders by Daniel Defoe. They were brought over by masters of ships to be sold as servants. Such as we call them, my dear, she says, referring to the word servants. But they are more properly called slaves. Excuse me. In 1783, the Quock Walker case ruled that any cases involving slavery applied to both white and black slaves. Thanks, Chad. What's fascinating about this case is that there is a Senate bill where they're trying to make Quock or whatever the fuck a national holiday. When if you look, because it's like it shows how evil black people were against white people. But if you actually look in the court case of that, it's one of the first precedents which says, look, the color of someone's skin means nothing as it relates to slavery. And right now in Congress, the lady's trying to push a bill that says, no, we got to make this a national holiday. Look, Sodomy Month is good, but until we have every Tuesday of every week dedicated to how unslavery we are, no one's going to believe this shit. By the way, give you 45% of your income. It's pronounced cock. Thank you, Dreamy Dudes. It's pronounced cock. The 1783 Cock Walker case. Is that better? It probably is. Thanks for fixing that. In 1819, the Factories Act was passed in the UK, prohibiting child workers younger than 9. But the whites had it all. Great, man. It was just the blacks that had to do that. So what? A 9-year-old had to work in a factory. He probably liked it there. It was probably really good conditions because he had education and he had freedom. Because someone legalized his freedom a long time ago because the what do they call them over there? Oh fuck. There's some kind of like paper, the charter, some kind of charter or something that gives them freedom. Yeah, because of that charter. It's because of the Constitution and because of this charter that we are free. So we're not slaves anymore. Only black people are slaves. We must pretend that they can't do things. Meanwhile, in 1819, we were like, can we stop sending our kids to the factory? They keep falling in the vats and shit. It's getting really bad. Dirt besmeared walls and decaying foundations, every repulsive lineament of poverty, every loathsome indication of filth, rot, and garbage. All these ornament the banks of Jacob's Island. Charles Dickens was more than an author. He was a commentator of the... Thank you, Magna Carta. Thank you, Adam. He was a commentator on the time. And he was famous for actually going on a tour of the slums and actually showing how bad it was. It was so bad. It was so bad. You're about to see how bad. You're like, how bad was it, James? Well, maybe if you keep watching, you'll find out. Jeez. God. Give someone a Magna Carta and they think they can demand how the fucking show goes. No, I'm just kidding. I do not believe until I visited the winds of Glasgow that so large an amount of filth, crime, misery, and disease existed in one spot in any civilized country. Frederick Engels, 1844. 10, 20, 30, who can count them? Men, women, children, for the most part naked, heaped upon the floor like maggots in a cheese. A spectral rising, unshrouded from a grave of rags. Inspector Field, June 14th, 1851. I believe he was in the same party as Dickens. I think he was actually the protector of Dickens as they went through these places. Like, you couldn't... Dickens was like, well, I'm going to go check it out. It's like, dude, you can just fucking go down there. You nuts? Well, no, because black people aren't racist, so I can go to the projects and, like... live among them in their poverty and their squalor because I'm a white guy, but see, they're not racist. That kind of stuff. Francis Fanny Trollope. We estimate over 200,000 English children have been snatched away to factories. We look at traces of this now with abortion. We are shocked at the idea that someone would put their baby on a burning effigy of Baal. But we do that every day. We send our kids to school. We're injecting them with 78 vials of vaccine. We enslave them in this idea that someone has legalized their freedom and they're safe now. We've done all these things. And we've actually made progress. We have more respect now than we've ever had for human life, and we still have a long, long, long way to go. So much way to go. But progress is there. This is why I get mad at people who try and insist that we're devolving. We're not. We're actually finding the sanctity of life. It's just taking for fucking ever. God, it takes so long. So long. Did I skip one? Yep. I would sooner subject my child to southern slavery than have him to be a free laborer of England. Abolitionist Charles Edwards Lester. Lester was a bona fide, pretty serious abolitionist, by the way. I would like for you to imagine that you're listening to an abolitionist, one of the most liberal people around, if you imagine modern times, like the good word liberal, telling you that the last place he would ever want is to be in indentured servitude, that slavery itself would be a better option. The slave trade worked in both directions, with white merchandise as well as black. El Rusham's Journal of Negro History, number 52, page 251. We cannot be sure that the position of the earliest Africans differed markedly from that of the white indentured servants. The debate has considerable significance for the interpretation of race relations in American history. Melanie, I should have bumped this one down. Way too long quote, but you get the idea. One cent reward ran away from the scriber about 1st of April, an indentured servant girl named Betsy Cudney, aged 12 to 13. All persons are hereby forbidden for harboring, trusting, or employing her under the full penalty of law. Whoever will return said runaway will receive the above reward, but no charges paid. Increase Miller, South Salem, May 10th, 1832. 1832. Betsy Cudney, a white girl. How do you know she's white, James? Because her name's Betsy. She has a last name. And someone paid for an ad in the paper for her. And I will show you the exact same ads that say runaway slave, and the reward will be as much as 10 cents. There's no difference, guys. There's no difference. And I need you to start thinking, well, why the fuck has this always been framed as a black issue? Why? James has Stockholm Syndrome. Don't know what that means. It's a question, though, so you're not declaring it, Department of Magical Education. Sounds like you got some issues. And that's cool, man. Issues give you something to do in the morning, right? If you can bitch about me, you don't got to worry about the world. You're like, God, the world's okay, but James, oh my God. I'm not even saying you're doing that. I have no idea why you said that. That's why I probably shouldn't watch the chat. We cannot... Okay, so I read that one. Who wants to be reminded that half, perhaps as many as 2/3 of the original American colonists came here, not of their own free will, but kidnapped, shanghaied, impressed, duped, beguiled, and yes, in chains. Elaine Kendall, Los Angeles Times, September 1st, 1985. There's no way you could work for the Times right now and say something like that. There's just no way. If you feel attacked, that's cool. Okay, thanks, man. That is awesome. You are a distraction, dude. I'm gonna shut you out in there so you can shut up. Because actually, when we're in the middle of doing a show, that is attacking. This book is the frickin' bomb right here. I'd say 80% of the slides that I pulled probably came from this book. Michael Hoffman, They Were Whites and They Were Slaves. The Untold History of the Enslavement of Whites in Early America. Highly recommend this book. It is interesting that white people who were bound to a condition of permanent chattel slavery until death are not referred to as slaves by establishment academia. Why? Why? Again, why are only black people allowed to be slaves? Guys, I'll stop the show. If we need to go into Let's Insult James for a while, we can do that. But damn, this is some good content. I spent like a lot of weeks in here, okay? So can we just not do that? It'd be great. Thursday. New York Times, July 3rd, 1862. 2 days after Lincoln signed the IRS. July 1st, 1872, the IRS was formed. And it was formed under the auspices of slavery emancipation. And that if there wasn't a national media... Guys, I'm going to stop watching the chat because I really want to focus on this content. So yeah, Melanie, you guys know how to get a hold of me. Mods know how to do that. This was the day. And the only reason why the first Revenue Act was even able to be passable was because of the witchcraft of slavery. That slavery gave the cover of dark, the cover of night, for these new rules to be inserted and to be installed. And that if it would not have been the boogeyman of that, none of this would have flown. It just would not have flown that way. Oh, I forgot to finish this slide. Forgive me, guys. The Revenue Act of 1862 was an expansion of the first U.S. income tax of 1861. So, 1861 happened. Lincoln came out and said, guys, just bear with me for a sec. because of slavery, only because of slavery, we need money. And if it wasn't for slavery, we wouldn't need money. And because of slavery, we need to pass a Revenue Act. Now listen, we're only going to take this money temporarily. It's only going to be for a while. It's only going to be for vices, like bad shit, right? Like alcohol. And it's only going to be for super rich people. And we're only going to do it because slavery's so bad. If it wasn't for slavery, we totally wouldn't be doing this. But gosh, the slavery is so bad. Do you mean the whites? No, I don't mean the whites. Talking about blacks. Even though 80% of our population here in America is actually more like 90%. It's completely free, even though 90% of them, are under slavery, indentured servitude, whatever you want to call it. That we have to tax these people now. It's just temporary. It's just temporary. And had there not been the scourge of slavery, had there not been this witch of slavery that needed to be brought into the town and executed and hung up, none of these laws would have passed. It just wouldn't have happened. And that had the Civil War not stretched itself out 5-6 years, the federal government would not have even existed today. That the entire Civil War's purpose was to expand the powers of the plantation. And how can a plantation own its citizens if some of them are owned by others? If the indentured servitude contracts maintain and stay themselves, there's no taxation there. How can we tax someone else's indentured servant? How can we tax someone else's slave? The only way we're going to be able to do that is we have to liberate those people. And under the auspice of liberation, we can create a 3,000% embargo on, we can create an embargo on oil. We can raise the price of refining oil 3,000% literally overnight. We can secure every single creditor. We can put to jail 300 newspapers, 300 people that work in newspapers, to make everyone shut the hell up, because this is slavery we're fighting. And it's no different than fighting a virus. All it takes is propaganda. All it takes is mass media. And once you have that, you're set. And sorry this slide isn't done, but in 1861, I added this morning. Guys, some of you are like, well, I thought the slides were done. I added this morning. In 1861, the very first Revenue Act came. 1862 it was renewed. In 1864, it was renewed again. 3 steps through the Civil War. In 1872, it was repealed. But then, in 1913, it came back with a vengeance. Lincoln said, so the first Revenue Act was levied, first ever income tax merit. I should have had this first here. One of the greatest perplexities of the government is to avoid receiving troops faster than it can provide for them. In a word, the people will save their government if the government itself will do its part. Lincoln was explaining, we have to have this money because of all the troops that are trying to help us. We have to have this money. It's our only choice. Three-tiered approach. Import tariffs, which people were already used to, but something brand new. Property tax and personal income tax. 2 things completely unheard of. What is slavery but the taxation of your life? You are my slave, which means that your time belongs to me. That's the principle of slavery. I own your time. And because I own your time, it's going to be very highly caloric for me, because since I do own your time, I have to feed you, I have to clothe you, I have to make sure that you're going to show up the next day. So it's a owning property is its own slavery. By you owning property, you are also indebted to that property. You don't get to wake up wherever you want. There's certain projects you're doing. The sweat equity you put into those projects makes the slavery stay. It's deeper. And that's why I'm trying to get you to even look at the word slavery different, because you've been tainted the whole time that you think slavery's bad and it has to be eradicated, but you're living under slavery, and the fear of your hatred for that word slavery is why you live under slavery today, because you're not willing to look at the relationship in an honest way. The detractors that come into the chat room, same kind of a thing. There's a slavery when it comes to you coming here to complain about me every day. You're in my slavery. There's a bondage there. I have the same bondage, but with the people that like me. I feel an obligation, I feel pressure to make sure I can deliver something. I don't have the same tinge over slavery because I've dropped the fetish for it. I don't know if I've fully dropped the fetish for it, honestly. Slavery is a big con. It's a big con. There's a lot of profit from finding yourself in slavery. It's a lot of it. You gain a lot. You don't have to worry about your decisions anymore. You get to blame every decision that you make or anyone else makes on your master. You get to go, the psychopaths they're the ones that are in charge. But look around. The psychopaths, I would call a psychopath someone who gives a kid 78 shots of a vaccine. That's a psychopath. And I don't think the elite are doing that to their kids. I think it's our neighbors doing it. I think it's our neighbors doing it. But they're not psychopaths magically. The same way white indentured servants aren't slaves magically. That these things don't count. Because the bad guys are bad, and they're rich, and they're elite. The good guys are poor, and they're always working hard. And well, they're just getting fooled, that's all. And once they figure it out, see that there's so much laziness in that. You could spend the rest of your life in that victimhood and enjoy it. You go to the Grand Canyon, pay $78 to wait 6 hours in line to get one parking space that you only can stay there for an hour and a half in. You can call that free. You can call that, oh, we need a wall. We need a wall to protect. We don't want other people coming over here. And you saw how long that line took to get in the Grand Canyon. We can't have that. Slavery is a drug, and it will put you in whatever clothes it needs, but you're ultimately the one that wakes up satisfied. You are. Caesar didn't put 1 million people in chains and drag them to Rome. Those Gauls didn't know what the fuck to do. They're like, well, you killed my warlord Marmka, and Marmka killed Gricecore, and Gricecore killed Legat, and Legat, well, he had sex with that weird horse, and everyone just said, okay, you're in charge, you're in charge. You are living in a pure raw jungle, baby, where horse fuckers are in charge. And Caesar comes in and kills all the horse fuckers, and now you just say he's in charge. Why? Because it serves you. And it serves you to go to Rome. I've heard about Rome. Yeah, I hear the nipples are very hard over there, and the wine is very full, and whatever the fuck it tells you. All you know is do I want to go back to my village and wait for another horse fucker to say he's in charge? Or do I want to go to Rome and become this slave thing? I have rights. So weird. Roman slaves had rights. There was protocol. there was a symbiotic civilization. If you want to know what corrupted you, it's the fort. Those very things you built as a kid in the woods is what corrupted you today, because that fort gave you this idea that you're not in the jungle anymore. And that is the same fetish as slavery. You start to believe that you're free. You start to believe that this fort is free. That this plantation, it's not a plantation, it's a plan nation. It's different, James. It's different. See, we're white. We're not enslaved over here. We're not treated like cattle and injected with we're not treated like cattle and fed really shitty food. Well, we're not sent to like training camp in the. Oh. James, we're not slaves. We're frickin' white, okay? You just shut up, man. You're racist. That's what you are. You're racist. The income tax itself was such a strange idea that the only way we'd swallow it is through shock. That we needed a system of shock to somehow convince us that it was the right call. That we needed a horsefucker to run into the town and claim he was in charge to insist we'd be better off as slaves in Rome. Why? Because it was profitable for us to do it. It felt good for us to do this. The Revenue Act of 1861. Politician Thaddeus Stevens said, "This bill is a most unpleasant one, but we perceive no way in which we can avoid it and sustain the government. The rebels who are now destroying or attempting to destroy this government have thrust upon the country many, many disagreeable things," says Thaddeus. "There's just nothing you could do." And that fear of the rebels, that fear of the witch, is what allows these things to be installed. Your first reaction to frequency puts you in chains unless you've learned to wake up. It's not even waking up, because we've been bred to a certain appetite. Guys, you can't even call someone out on the fucking street. Last year there was a love triangle I was involved in where someone was not telling the truth about someone else they were involved in. And even my attempts of calling that person out were met with, "You are so evil, James, for doing that." We live in a society that has this blanket that pushes the idea that shitty behavior is good. And that anyone who tries to point out that the elite pedophile is not sticking their kids with fucking needles, you are, and you are, and you are, that that's not acceptable because that doesn't feel good. Because slavery, James, feels good. It washes away all of my responsibility here. Because I'm the one that's saying we have to legalize freedom, which is your way of saying, I'm going to fucking sit here and I'm going to wait for another horsefucker to come in and fix this bad horsefucker, because this new horsefucker is going to promise me that I now have freedom. And that Thaddeus Stevens crap, this looks really honorable when you don't know what politics are. When you were a kid and when you were learning about politics, you read this and thought, damn, politics is badass, man. Here's like a dude who's like, look, I don't even want to do this, but we got afraid of the slave because of fucking rebels. And what are you really looking at? The Confiscation Act. The Confiscation Act passed just 16 days later. The defining characteristic of the act was that it called for courts, proceedings for seizure of land and property for disloyal citizens, supporters of the Confederacy. That act, under the fear of witchcraft, under the fear of slavery, that act gave the government ability to take whatever it wanted, whenever it wanted, with zero reasons, with zero trial, purely because you could call someone a rebel. And we try and pretend terrorism is like a new phenomenon. when it's the most profitable tool a government has ever made? Why the fuck would they change it? Why the hell would they fix terrorism when it works so well for them? Slavery or liberation? Which one of these is free? Which one of these is a slave? Tell me. Fucking tell me. Because we got this shit backwards. So backwards. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states, and without regard to any census or enumeration. Amendment 16, July 2nd, 1909. We are not free. We are living under a series of laws that makes it perfectly clear that they can take and do whatever they want because we are afraid of the elites and what they might do to us, so we will do these things to ourselves instead. One of my heroes, I'd like to recommend everyone, please watch this film today. It's free. You can find it on YouTube. I'd like to ask the mods if you guys can, sorry I didn't think of this earlier, but if you could post a link to that film for the watchers, that'd be great. The film is called America, Freedom to Fascists. It's made by the filmmaker Aaron Russo. It says he examines the process of taxation and the state of freedom in America. He seeks proof for his belief that there is no law requiring citizens to pay federal income taxes, and that current and proposed identity laws are eroding civil liberties and turning the U.S. into a fascist state. This was 30, 40 years ago. It's still happening. Shit, I need to see the chat now. Hopefully no one's trying to start a fight with me right now. Did Gaia tell me about Peter Schiff? Not yet. The Russo, one of the many topics that he covered was Irwin Schiff. I don't have a picture of him right now, but Irwin Schiff died in 1984. Spent most of his life in prison for tax evasion. Wrote a book explaining that taxes aren't real. His son, I believe his son is... Guys, you need to prune my lips here. I believe his son is Peter Schiff. And quite the famous Peter Schiff. I believe it's the same person. I'm 99% sure. But prune my lips. You should prune my lips anyway, by the way. Regardless if I tell you how sure I am of something. You should definitely prune my lips. Star Sorcerer has pasted a link to that movie in the chat, so you can see that now. No, okay. Sorry, no Schiff relations, says Jessica. None of that. His son, named Peter Schiff, and his other son both say, yes, we think that everything our father said is true, but we don't recommend you do that. They saw... Guys, the problem is not the law. The problem is all the fuckers that are trying to tell you that they're not responsible because they're just free people. The problem's never been the law. It's always been the people that listen to the witch hunters. Witch hunters prove themselves by creating law. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. People are dying. It's not enough to think it's important. We must make it urgent. The rebels are coming. We must have a revenue tax. It's only temporary. It's only for a very short period of time, and it's only because of how racist everyone is. It's the only reason. We would never do it under any other circumstances. We swear, as soon as the green racist tax is done, we will lift it. Same game, right? exact same game. I thought I had another slide here. It didn't save to this one, did it? I had a beta or work one too. Where'd that go? That's alright. That's alright. Beta or work. We only have 10 years to live. We only have 10 years to live. He said that 2 years ago. Green tax. Green tax is the next one. Why are 45% of your time given to the government? Why is that the case? Is it because of the lawmakers? Or is it because of the people that are like, yeah, that sounds good. We don't want racists around here. We heard that things are terrible down there in the South, and so they made us feel like, well, things aren't so bad here because they're so bad in the South. So yeah, we should go kill them. Even though 7%, even though 7% of the colonists were even fucking literate, even had the ability to read, we feel certain that it's because of these laws and because of the rebel uprising that they're able to communicate so effectively through their own newspapers and have their own propaganda. Even though 7% of them can read, 93% of them don't read a newspaper, but we feel certain it's because of all the newspapers. All the newspapers. All the people that own the scripture are telling us things are bad, and we're believing it. And we're believing it again for the umpteenth million bazillionth time. But this time it's not a lie. Because this time the rebels are real. This time the witch is real. This time the commies are real. This time the Nazis are real. This time the Hottentots are real. The Gauls are real. The Druids are real. The pagans are real. Every single fucking time. And you can say that, well, we're just really, really foolish. No. We're clever as fuck. I haven't seen with my own eyes, but I've read plans of Romans building bridges, 5-story tall truss bridges in 3 days. I've seen people survive storms at sea. I've seen people lift cars to save babies. I've seen people find their lost love 5,000 miles away. What you're seeing is not misfortune over and over and over and over and over again. Shame on you first time, right? Shame on them. What, you get it? This shit's profitable. And until you start to realize how effective it is to find yourself a slave, you'll never understand why this shit always works. You're going to make decisions in your life. And those decisions are going to be hard. You're going to be like, shit, should I live stream or should I switch to movies? Should I move or should I stay here? Should I pay my taxes? Should I not? Should I write a book? Should I do this? Should I do that? Whatever. And those decisions are hard. And you'll find yourself waffling on many of them. You'll be like, fuck, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it's times like those where you will look for excuses. You will say, well, I'm going to go watch TV for a while. Or I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go do that. You look for excuses because of how caloric those decisions are. Making those decisions requires effort. And most of the people that are forced with those decisions would take a golden ticket if you walked in and said, hey, I can make all those decisions go away. You can make all those decisions go away? Yeah. I can make it so that you don't have to worry about food, clothing, shelter ever again. And you don't have to worry about what you should be doing. That you're always going to be doing the right thing. You're always going to know what the right thing to do is. Well, how is that possible? Because the right thing will have rewards and the wrong thing will have punishment. And I will inflict both of those on you. And one of the rewards is the lack of punishment. It's pretty much the only reward. Well, why would I do that? Because when you're feeling weak and you can't decide if you should take the left trail or the right trail, you get to blame me. You don't have to blame yourself anymore. You get to say it was my fault. You get to say that I was the one that sent you down that left path and you should have gone right the whole way. And you knew it the whole time, but you couldn't act because of the rebels, because of the witches, because of the slavery, because of the whatever else it is. That we look for these psychological excuses to maroon ourselves in situations which allow us to fetishize our own slavery. And today is that birthday. This is the month of Julius, by the way. Entire month dedicated to Julius Caesar. A month that literally did not exist until he came along. The fucker invented a month. And it shows you how profitable it is for you to run into Gaul and kill all the horse fuckers and not free anybody. They don't want to be free. They want to be slave. And this relationship that we've had has been how we learn to walk. This isn't because we're broken. This isn't because we're decrepit or we're sinful. It's because we're learning how to walk. And that we used to throw babies into the river. We used to throw babies in the trash. Not kidding. And yeah, we abort them now. We do all kinds of stuff to them now. But we've gotten so much better. We've even gotten better at slavery. We now want our own name. We don't mind being slaves, but we want our own name. We want to have our own identity. And right now, you will find politicians that are saying, yeah, but what about the women? The women don't pay taxes. They need to pay taxes too. I swear to you, I need you to realize that that was literally what happened. That people started demanding that we enslave women too. And while we did that, we were calling them progressive, liberal thinkers. That a woman's not truly free until she pays taxes. That's what it means to say we finally emancipated women by giving them the right to fucking vote. What would you rather have? Seriously, what would you rather have? Would you rather have the ability to go into a box and choose between red or blue? Or entire lifetime free from income tax? Which one gives you more power? Draining 45% of your entire focus, of all your calories, 45% of them go to the government so people like Cortez can tell you how shitty you are. 45% of your revenue goes to her, and that's better than when you used to not have that. Taxes should be tribute. Tribute should be what we pay because we feel like it. Tribute should be based on generosity. You volunteer for your civic center in the same way. I'm going through a lot right now, so I can't come volunteer on the weekends anymore, but maybe later on, when I have more electricity, I can afford to help out at the community center more. Or the community center is being run by a horse fucker who thinks that everyone who walks around with their lip genitals exposed is somehow evil and is demanding everyone wear a mask. I'm not going to volunteer down there for a while because those people are fucking psychopathic. It's just that simple. And that the entire country would be just as safe, if not more so, if that's how we ran things. In fact, this system would probably run globally. So why don't they do it? Because people love slavery. That's why people get mad at me, because I bitch about slavery. And they like slavery. They'd rather pretend, they'd rather wait, they'd rather have hope for someone to come and legalize freedom. Because if they wait long enough, it will happen. And I know it'll happen because people like Alexander Cortez are promising you that they'll do that all the time. Candace Owens is promising you she's going to save you from all the people that are saying everything's about racism. You really, really think that's going to be more free? Because it's not. The truth of the matter is that your rights end where you decide it's not worth dying for. And that's how nature truly works. That the only Bill of Rights is what you're willing to die for. And that's a living, breathing document that's going to change from person to person. And if we didn't have it written down, I think people would actually probably be a little bit more respectful of rights. Because you don't know how important that right is to that person until you try and take it away. That if we were to ever turn our torches to the Karens, to the people that are insisting that we're not evil, even though I'm giving my kids 72 shots of vaccine, we're not evil. If we could finally turn the torches on those people, it'd be a whole other game. You could argue that that's happening right now. That the people that are dropping like flies are the people that have always carried the torches, that have always demanded someone ought to do something. I don't care who it is. I don't care what their morals are, but just give them power and give them money because someone needs to do something. That mentality is where slavery was built. And I guarantee you not one of these politicians had the balls to say, hey, I don't know if this will work because no one's ever like really begging for slavery, but why don't we try and install slavery? That would only fucking work. The slowest, the slimiest politicians always go for the easy food. That's how they get to be politicians. That's why you don't see one-termers. I knew DC was bullshit when I started noticing there was no such thing as one-term politicians. That no one was willing to go, hey, I just got elected, spent millions of dollars, worked my ass off, got elected, here I am. First thing I'm going to say right here on the Senate floor, under record, because it has to be on record, is I think 9/11 was theater. And here's why I think that, here's what I think that, here's why. Here's how it happened, here's all of it. And I think that we have a lot of these psyops going on in the government because I think that's how witches breed fear. And that this is a giant haven of witchcraft. And I realize that on my day one, by me saying this, I will never be put into any committees. I will never be brought into any back doors. And that is the only reason why I wanted to be elected. Is because I wanted you to hear me say that. Do what you will, censor me, it doesn't matter. I've already said it, it's in the fucking record now. I get to put that on my tombstone. James True ran for Congress, told everybody they were full of shit, then got diselected. Tell me what the fuck's wrong with that. Because there should be at least 15, 20, 30, 50 people like that. Certainly wasn't Ron Paul. Certainly wasn't Rand Paul. These people are telling you over and over again, yeah, something should be done. It's so bad. Something really should be done. Next week I'm going to convene a committee to consider talking about tabling the idea that something should be done. That's the same thing. We hold the chains of our own victimhood. We do. We do that because of how profitable it is. And we will continue to do that as long as it's profitable for us. And the only way it will not be profitable is for people like you and me to point out what victimhood really is. To point out what slavery really is. It's a fetish for the lack of responsibility. That's all I got for today. Thank you for joining me. Sorry for the delay in the shows last week. We're having some technical issues. I wish I could say they were solved, but they're not. But I just went back to the old way, so it's okay. I was hoping to do some fancy things, and the technology's not letting me do that. But we got a lot more shows coming. Don't worry, the Jesus, Jonah, Whale, all that is coming. Can't wait. Today being July 1st, me and the team decided we wanted to push this one today. So probably even do Jonah tomorrow, I would say. yeah, then we'll have that weekend, second, third, fourth is, yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll wait. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you want. In fact, if we get enough, guys, I don't really get enough views to be straight. The last one was like 3.4 thousand views, and that was like a week. So I don't even know how long this experiment's going to last. But I've got at least 5 shows in the bag right now, including Electric Community. I've not forgotten about that. The only reason why Electric Community didn't go is because there's a visual that really helps explain things. It's only because it helps explain things that I really want to show you guys. So, yeah, thank you guys. Thank you much. Chad, I will, this whole time it's been on 1, and that's where it's going to stay. Here, Chad, one more time. There's 1. There's 2. This is 2. This is 2. This is 2. And this is 1. This is 1. This is 1. Thank you for that, sliding into it. I'm glad I'm thought-provoking. That was at least part of my show. And, yeah. All right, guys. Have a wonderful day. And hit that thumbs up. Join me on Patreon if you want. Could use the help there. Although, man, even if the viewership stays down, the patrons pretty much have me covered. So that's why I hated missing an entire week. It was just... Anyway, it'll be a full summer, I promise. Plus, all the shows are already in the bag, so we're already well ahead. There is a newsroom meeting after this. Thanks, Chad. Some of you are in the newsroom, and I want to see you afterwards because we got to talk about what's coming next. And yeah, so we'll sign out for now. Where's my outro? Here it is. All right, guys, have a great day. I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm going to play again. This slideshow, 53 slides, all except for one was good. That is downloadable to patrons. All the slides and the research we have is there. We're hoping those memes will get spread that way. Jessica, some people will probably put a few of them up in different places and things like that too. But yeah, it's one of the perks for joining me on Patreon is you get to have access to all that research and stuff. Okay, back to the song. Bye, guys. Okay, so I'm sorry, I just realized I'm about to show you a horse, and it has nothing to do with the... I need you to cleanse that image of the Gaulish horse fuckers and realize that, yeah, it's... poor timing on that, but anyway, here it comes.